Is BPC-157 good for osteoarthritis? Now, this is a great question because while we don't have human data, in this study, I'll deconstruct why osteoarthritis is there and some of the missteps that people take when it comes to treating it. We'll also talk about BPC-157's rat lab hype for creaky knees. It looks good on paper, but still is out there without solid human proof. We'll also talk about the joints and the angiogenic tendencies that get upgraded with osteoarthritic knees. But then we'll also talk about the limitations with cartilage. And because it's a degenerative disease, you're going to be losing cartilage, and that's the real crux is, does BPC-157 actually help regenerate it? But we'll also talk about ligament support in animals and also how possibly it translates into your human knees. And then we'll cut through some of the nuances of science so you can actually understand what's great for joint support versus the current evidence void. And so if you've been dealing with knees that creak, that ache, that people can hear across the room, and you've heard the buzz around BPC-157, you're wondering, well, is it actually good for osteoarthritis? Or is it just another kind of hype that's going to be here today and gone tomorrow? Well, today we'll unpack exactly what it can and cannot do. And I'm excited to talk to you about this because osteoarthritis is a much bigger problem than people realize. So I'm Regan Archibald. I'm the founder of Ageless Future. I've been obsessed with peptides for over a decade because I found that they created leverage in my own health, and I want to share the information with you so that you can put your health on the right trajectory. I'm here giving you data that I found in my research and also with our clinical application. For those of you who are looking for a very structured and strategic plan to help you look, feel, and perform your best, go to agelessfuture.com. So BPC-157, does it work for osteoarthritis? So most of this body protective compound has been studied in rodent models. And it was first discovered in the University of Zagreb in Croatia. And the scientists were looking for a panacea, the one thing that every cell needed that turned on the regenerative switch. BPC-157 is what they landed on, and for good reason. As you dissect the different data, most of their work was done on rodents. There are small studies that have been done on humans, but from a clinical perspective, these are more anecdotal, but the clinicians in the longevity medicine space, the human performance space, we've been comparing notes for over a decade. And we've seen this compound have enormous benefits for humans and a very low downside. Now, I know that there's FDA had put it on the category 2 do not compound list at the end of 24. Even with that said, this compound, because there wasn't a suitable replacement, it's still being compounded by many 503A compounding pharmacies. And so when it comes to osteoarthritis, probably the biggest thing that BPC-157 will not do is not going to regenerate cartilage, but it does seem to help ramp up angiogenesis. And so one study that was published in an orthopedic journal, they found that it did ramp up angiogenesis around the knees and ligaments in animals. And angiogenesis is just the formation of new blood vessels. And in these rodent models, they described it like engineering new supply lines in a battle-worn area. The ligaments surrounding the joint showed improvements in organization. They had vascular support, and the animals demonstrated better functional outcomes. Now, this is important. If your rat does have osteoarthritis in his knees, does seem to work. But what happened is it was the structure around the cartilage that seemed to be improved, not necessarily the cartilage itself. There are also classic tendon repair studies in animals where the Achilles tendon was damaged or the quadricep was damaged. And these rats who were treated with BPC-157 demonstrated superior biomechanical strength compared to controls. Researchers also measured things like load to failure and structural organization, and the treated animals performed better mechanically. It's almost like a new suspension bridge was built and that was much stronger than before. Now, this is one reason why me and many others have been enthusiastic about this molecule, not only in sports performance communities, but also in longevity medicine, because pain is that limiting factor that keeps us from enjoying our life. I want you to have as much time doing the enjoyable things that you love with the people you love. And when you have pain like osteoarthritis in the knees, it gets in the way of that opportunity. One thing that we brought into Ageless Future years ago, even before peptides, was regenerative medicine with stem cell therapy. We also use a treatment called alpha-2 macroglobulin. And when you're thinking of osteoarthritis, it's not just in the knee. You want to think of osteoarthritis as a systemic condition. Usually it's coming from some type of either chemical exposure or infection or some kind of trauma to the body. Even emotions drive up the proteases that can build up and cause some degeneration in the body. So BPC-157, when you're using it, you want to think of it as a systemic overhaul. It's like the master key that turns on the engine for better cell signaling, less inflammation, better recovery. And even when researchers, when they looked at tissue under a microscope after the rodents had been injected with BPC after massive injuries, they found that these joints repaired over a period of weeks. It was, in some cases, they had 3 times quicker healing responses. The microenvironment, it looked more structurally supported. It suggests a steady ecosystem. Again, this is in the context of soft tissue repair. Osteoarthritis is a cartilage problem. So how much of the ligament tendon data is actually translatable to cartilage? That's the real question. This is where stem cell regeneration using perinatal tissues, we use umbilical cord stem cells. We also have substrates and protein matrix that helps provide the scaffolding so that you can actually get some regeneration, and then your body's own stem cells can turn on cartilage regeneration. If you think of cartilage breakdown inside of a human knee, the real goal is, number one, turn off that degeneration. How do we do that? Well, one of the treatments that we do is called alpha-2 macroglobulin. Similar to PRP, you get your blood taken out, and then we have to centrifuge it to pull out the platelet-rich plasma. And then we have to heat it up, cool it down, and extract the alpha-2 macroglobulins. And what they do is when we inject it into an osteoarthritic knee, now it flushes out those proteases, almost like Pac-Man. These macroglobulins just eat up the arthritic triggering proteins so that now you've got a clean environment. Then roughly 4 to 6 weeks later, that's when we do regenerative medicine, where we'll utilize perinatal stem cell sources and inject into the knee so that you have some regenerative signaling now that those proteases are out of the way. And we see people who were scheduled for a knee replacement. I have clients who have been with us for over 10 years, still don't have a knee replacement. And yes, it's not a perfect science, but they're able to get their knees regenerated every single year. Sometimes you'll need 2 or 3 injections in the beginning to get the right regeneration. But then over the course of time, it may be 2 years, 3 years, in some cases 5 years before you need another treatment. Now, this is phenomenal because the breakthroughs in cartilage regeneration and stem cell medicine is so exciting. So keep your knees healthy. But the other thing that we do is using peptides like tirzepatide, which the GLP-1s and GIP combo, even retatrutide, has shown incredible promise for osteoarthritic knees. But when you do that, you lower the inflammatory response, you trigger regeneration in the entire body. You use BPC-157 for the angiogenic factors, for that VEGF increase, for the nitric oxide. That's when we've seen phenomenal changes. You clean up the diet, you start exercising in the right way, you start working on mobility and flexibility. You can save your knees. So avoid the surgery and look at other options. It's not just BPC-157 that will do it, but it will help support that entire matrix when you're using regenerative medicine. So if this is something where you want to go deeper, set up a regenerative medicine consult with my team. Just go to agelessfuture.com, and our regenerative medicine specialists are phenomenal, and they'll take care of you. I'm Regan Archibald. I'll see you on the next video.